Formative Assessment for California Teachers, Fact Verification, Inquiry into Teaching and Learning. Participating teachers, please fill out the information above this line. Reviewers will complete the information below on this page. You can use this page as a checklist for the inquiry as you complete pages 4 and on. The purpose of the inquiry is to utilize collected data to improve teaching as measured by each standard of the California Standards for the Teaching Profession. Please use these expectations and the directions on each page to complete each component of the inquiry. Individual Induction Plan, IIP. Insert approved IIP boxes 1 through 6 in this form. You will cut and paste into the correct areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Throughout the inquiry, you will continue with boxes 7 and 8. Box 7, Implementation. How did you directly utilize and implement the resource? Explain any changes you made to your teaching practice based on the information gathered. You are not describing the resource anymore here. You are simply telling us how you implemented it into your teaching, into your students' learning. And then over at number 8, the measurable results, what changes do you notice in your students based on your implementation of the resource? Describe the impact on student achievement here. So, the action plan, describing the resource, how you implemented the resource, and what happened based on the implementation of the resource. Essential components for instruction. Record information to ensure all essential components for instruction are considered when designing your lesson series. All components must be met. NA or none is not an acceptable response. Share and discuss with your support provider. Please note the beginning date and ending date of the inquiry. This inquiry is 6 to 8 weeks long. The beginning date is when you begin your research. The ending date is when you reflect on the summative assessment and the overall inquiry. The 6 to 8 week inquiry should be reflected in the beginning date and the ending date. You will then go through, read each component, and complete as it pertains to your students, your teaching, and your inquiry. At the end, there are discussion questions. Discuss with support provider, check box, as discussed. Entry-level assessment. To understand the range of learners in your class, give an entry-level assessment to your students. Collect the student responses and follow the process of analysis outlined below. Please follow steps 1 through 4 to sort your students. Once you've sorted your students, you will place their first names in this bar graph. You can start from top to bottom or bottom to top, but you do not need to space in between the students. This is simply a bar graph to help sort the student data. Entry-level assessment reflection. Reflect on the entry-level assessments to help understand the range of learners in your class and respond to all questions below. Before instruction begins, what do the results tell you about what your students understand and are able to do? For students to achieve at each of these levels, what do you think are some possible factors to consider? Please make sure you're reflecting on both questions for each component. Focus student selection. Use the entry-level assessment data to select students representing the range of learners in your instructional environment. Identify 3 focus students for the inquiry. These students' initial assessments should have been saved and inserted into C3, the entry-level assessment. Focus student 1, English learner. If there is not an English learner in your caseload, the focus student can be a student that struggles with academic content or vocabulary. Focus student 2, special populations. If there is not a student with special needs in your caseload, the focus student can be a student that struggles or exceeds academically or may have social challenges, a non-typical student. Focus student 3, teacher's choice. Choose a student that will complement focus students 1 and 2 and represent the range of learners in your instructional environment. In the boxes below, you record the first names of selected students. You must include alternates in the event your focus student is absent during an observation or drops from your caseload. Then you will follow up with more details and more information about each focus student. Lesson plan template for observation. For the support provider's observation of a lesson, use this template or a district-aligned lesson plan template. Collect the graded work from the 3 focus students to insert into your analysis of student work. Please make sure this template is complete before the observation. Inquiry observation record. This will be completed by your support provider. Inquiry observation record. Please make sure you point out your 3 focus students to your support provider before the observation begins. They will be taking notes on each focus student as well as the whole class. Analysis of student work. Describe how your students performed. Insert a copy of the graded scored work resulting from the observation lesson for each focus student. You will reflect on the overall class performance and then each focus student. This is to reflect the observation that your support provider attended. Summative assessment. To understand the range of learners in your class, give a summative assessment to your students. Collect responses and follow the process of analysis outlined below. Insert a copy of the graded scored summative assessment for each focus student. This is similar to the procedure for the initial assessment. Sort, and then place your students in the bar graph in the correct spot. Then you will reflect on the summative assessment. And finally, at the end of your inquiry, you will reflect on the overall inquiry process, and you will be responding to the questions below. Remember, an inquiry is a 6 to 8 week process, and that should be reflected throughout all these components as well. You may and are encouraged to discuss and share with your support provider along the way as you complete your inquiry.